Hello there, Warriors of Light, and welcome to my channel. Now, whether you've been an existing player or you're new to Eorzea, there's definitely a few hidden UI elements that aren't exactly readily apparent, and I feel like if we cover them, they might help you out day to day, and I really do hope they do. Now, before we dive in, if you are new to this channel, please consider dropping a like and hitting that subscribe button. It will really help out more than you know, but let's dig in. Alright, now first things first, when we are talking about UI, one of the things is that everybody wants to be able to customize their own UI to kind of make it fit their own liking. So one of the first things that I like to kind of point out is that there is an option for a expanded inventory slot. So if we actually go into our system and character configuration, I think my shortcut is K. I don't really remember if that's the default or not. But one of the things that we can actually do is go directly to item settings. Now right here, the default is going to be normal on everything. And that's basically going to kind of look like this. And there's just way too many sections to have to navigate through. In my personal opinion, it's just kind of a pain. So I typically will just go ahead and hit expanded both for your main inventory and for your retainers. That way you're basically always looking at something that's pretty similar. Now, one of the other options right beneath that is this remove dim effect from unequipable gear in the armory chest. I will usually keep that deselected. Basically right here I have a really good example here where I have some a monk weapon in my armory chest, and I'm unable to equip it because I'm not high enough level on monk. In fact, I think I'm literally level 1 pugilist. So I usually keep that deselected. That way it's a better indicator of what I can get rid of. I can go sell it, just throw it away, whatever I need to do. Now, one other really quick thing, and it's actually pretty simple, is on the minimap there is an option for lock/unlock minimap compass. I'm a huge advocate for letting the compass follow where I'm at, as you can kind of see. By default, I do believe it is locked, so we always know, which way is north, just directly. Things like that. But honestly, I find that just to be a pain. So I'll usually have it unlocked. That way it just kind of follows me along. And I always have a pretty good indication of where I'm trying to go. Now, one of the other things that's going to be pretty common is adjusting the sizing of your various HUDs. So if we actually go to system, we actually have this HUD layout option. And I've got a few different weird layouts here. But let's say we wanted to shuffle these around. You can always move them around to wherever you want, and you can also scale them up. So right here we have UI elements here. If I really wanted to, I could go ahead and increase it to say 120, 140, things like that. And it's just going to go ahead and kind of make it a little bit larger or smaller. Now, this is actually very complemented by the fact that within your actual system configuration, you are able to change your resolution. Currently, I'm at 1440p, but we do see that we have some additional scaling options. We can basically boost it up to 4K if we want to, but that can also adjust the UI size a little bit. So if we're actually at 4K, our icons are going to be pretty small. So you might want to try defaulting to those UI elements being a little bit bigger if we were to do so. Similarly, if we are on a smaller resolution, we might want to decrease the UI if the boxes are a little bit too big. So it takes a little playing around with to kind of get it looking just right, but you can definitely kind of make it look nice and pretty. Personally, I kind of like it small, just so it's not eating up too much real estate on my screen, but that's just personal preference. Now, one thing that kind of complements that, and let me flip over to a class that I have a little less available on, like Samurai. While I have Samurai on, you'll notice that I have a lot of different options, or a lot of different slots that are currently blank. And simply, if we were to go to character configuration, pretty much all we have to do is go towards these hotbar settings right here, and you've got a ton of different options here. First and foremost, you can go ahead and adjust the the style of how these appear. So if we simply go to character configuration, one of the options that we'll see is that we are able to hide unassigned slots. So if if you're still pretty early into the game, it's probably going to look something like this, where you see just a bunch of little empty slots that you're not actually using quite yet. And if you ever just get tired of that, all you have to do is just hide the unassigned slots. But then the other thing is that it should also be displaying these, which is fine because you can kind of like click and drag and move them around as you like. But again, to kind of avoid that, if you want to make sure that they're going to sit still, then just go ahead and do yourself a favor and hide those. Now, it should also come default again with just like 2 hotbars, but eventually you're probably going to start using 3 or 4. You might even start using additional hotbars as well. Now, one thing to note is that at a point, there could be a scenario where maybe you want to throw all of your extra options, like your mounts and sprint and other things along those lines. Maybe you want just like an extra hotbar or two to be able to accommodate that. So very commonly, what some people will do is they'll basically take one of these hotbars and use them as a shared hotbar. So for example, let's use 5 as an example. Let's go ahead and activate 5, and let's go ahead and bring it into the shared options right here. And just temporarily, just so I can kind of see it, let's go ahead and not hide the spots here. So let's say we really wanted to throw on one of our mounts onto one of the slots. We could basically go ahead and do so. Let me just throw on my fat black chocobo on one. Maybe we want to toss on sprint to another, so we can always press P, go to general and grab sprint here. It's also possible that maybe you just want to go ahead and throw like teleport and return onto a couple of its options. That way it's just like super easy for you to go wherever you want to go. But additionally, past that, you might also consider throwing a couple of your battle classes on here. So if we were to go to our character, or if we just press on C, right here we're going to have our character page here, and we could go ahead and go towards our gear set list. Now as you start getting additional classes, all of them can be saved right here in these saved slots. And you can kind of easily just swap from one class to another. So maybe we want to swap to Dark Knight or something like that. But another option is that maybe we want to start grabbing some of our more favorite classes onto our hotbar right over here. So here I could throw like Scholar, Warrior, Dark Knight, maybe I throw on Summoner. And at any point in time now, I can just simply click a button. And now I'm able to easily swap classes on the fly. Now, another cool thing that this brings up is these hotbar options. We actually have the ability of adjusting some of these to look just a little bit differently. So if we actually go to System and we go back to HUD, you'll notice that we can click on a couple of these options, like Trance Gauge or Aether Flow Gauge. We can click on this little gear icon, the UI element settings. And right here, there's switch job gauge to simple mode. So by default, this is kind of what that looks like, but I might want to simplify it just to kind of clean up a little bit of the space that I'm looking at. I think Summoner is the only class that I might be doing that with currently. But other than that, everything else should be on my other settings. Now, while we are on the topic of HUD layout, we also have the ability of maneuvering around all of our different fields to where we like. You can move your minimap. A lot of times I'll see people maybe have like their minimap down below, and maybe they have like their hotbars on like the left or right hand side, you know, things like that. But your entire organization is completely up to you. I used to do a bunch of like high-end content, so I usually would bring my main focus kind of around this little window here. So I have my focus target bar, my enemy list, my party list, things like that, rather than having to kind of look up to the very top corners where I might miss a cast or a visual cue, something along those lines. Now another quick option is the choice of color for your theme. So if we actually go directly to system configuration, you do actually have an option here in theme settings where you can choose dark, light, or classic. Now you'll note that there is this asterisk here where you must log in again to change the effect. But basically your options for your various menu coloring includes dark, which is what I use, light, and classic, which just kind of makes it look like the OG Final Fantasies back in the day, including Final Fantasies 4, 6, 7, things like that. Now another option that you can interact with is going to be your log details. So if we go back to our character configuration, our bottom option is log windows, or log window. And right here you can kind of adjust the colors or like what logs you want to be able to see as options down below. I pretty much just stick with general, battle, and event personally. But one of the other things that you can interact with is your font sizing or transparency for each one of them. And my personal favorite aspect here is the notification sounds. So I actually have different notification sounds depending on what's going on. So for example, one of my crossworld link shells is a hunt train crossworld link shell. And if somebody is posting in there, then I'm going to be able to kind of hear about it. I think it was actually this link shell right here. I don't think it was a crossworld link shell. Yep, that's it. So right here, this is going to be the one that I particularly have for my hunt train. But basically, every single one of these different chat options, you can basically create different notification tones. Here, I've got a PvP one, which is pretty good. Alliance, while you're in an alliance raid. Just general party, pretty quick and easy. And then custom tell. There you go. Now I know I've gotten a DM here on Final Fantasy. So yeah, every single one of those you can adjust, you can activate them, deactivate them, change their types. There's a whole giant arsenal of 16 different types that you can interact with here. And then one of the final things to discuss is going to be the event, the battle effects. So if we go to control settings, right here in character, there's this option for battle effects. I know sometimes when you have like really big battles going on, it can get really flashy. It's really confusing on like what's going on. So you could always consider interacting with some of this. Currently I'm using show all on my own, show limited for party, and show limited for others. But if that's still too much, you might consider using show none or still show limited on party, whatever makes the most amount of sense for you. Personally, I think with the higher tier content, I usually like to keep show limited on just so I can kind of have a general idea of what other people are doing. But again, if you don't really care too much about that and you just want a clean UI while you're in combat, you could just consider show none. Now, overall, there's still plenty of other options that you could interact with when it comes down to the UI. I figured I would just kind of show just a couple of few things that are very easily overlooked until you kind of get a little bit deeper into the game. But with all that said, I hope you found this video helpful and informative, and I'll look forward to hearing your thoughts, feedback soon. Feel free to leave your comments down below. And again, if this is your first time here, please consider dropping a like and hitting that subscribe button. And I will see you guys next time here in Eorzea. Have a great one.